Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you're all doing very well. But I do want to go ahead and get to the first part of tonight's stream, Chad, and it is a big one. I'm doing my top 10 best movies of 2022, along with the honorable mentions, Chad. Like, even though these movies did not make it in my top 10, I still want to give them their due. I still want to respect them, Chad. I still really enjoyed them. And I'm going to start the honorable mentions, right now. I have to say, just overall, I think this has been a really good year for film. Well, with some exceptions. I think this has been a great year for a lot of genre fare. I feel like this has been a great year for certainly a number of blockbuster movies. It's funny, the movies that have not done particularly all that well, both in terms of box office and also just in terms of quality, are a lot of the kind of Oscar-baity movies. Films like The Fabelmans, which is one of it is actually Steven Spielberg's lowest grossing movie of his entire career, which is like, wow, that's incredible. Only $10 million, Jeff. Or, films like Babylon or Amsterdam, like all these would-be films of all these, huge auteur directors, there's like, oh, they're all about, championing cinema. And yet they've made some of the sloppiest cinematic fare of the year, in my opinion. So that's kind of interesting to me. These kind of, these other movies which kind of defy their genres or incorporate different genres. Like, these are the films I feel like have really succeeded this year. Horror, I think, has had a fantastic year, Chet. So many great horror movies, Chet. Starting all the way back in the beginning of the year and all the way up to the very end. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, fantasy films that incorporate different universes and the idea of multiverses, Chet. That's been interesting to see, and audiences have responded in kind, and they just haven't gone to see a lot of these Oscar-baity films. But again, I don't think a lot of those films have been quite good this year, like at all. I feel like audiences maybe kind of picking up is like, yeah, you got to be more than just, you got to do more than just put your name on it and just show some pretty images in a trailer. You got to really sell the movie. You got to give a reason as to why an audience or an audience member should go see your film. Just something I noticed this year, Chad. But I want to go ahead and I want to start with tonight's honorable mentions for some of the best movies of 2022. And, this one, I've talked about it before, and it holds a special place in my heart, honestly. One, because it's been a long time since we've seen this character on screen, and not every film that they've been featured in has been great. Of course, there are exceptions, no doubt, but I would say the last few films that they were in were not of the best quality, in my opinion. However, I feel like they made a triumphant return, and that's why the first of my honorable mentions for 2022, chat, is a Madea Homecoming. I mean, Tyler Perry infamously said, Madea, she's not coming back. I'm retiring the character. It's over. I'm going to just rule my 8th of Georgia that I control and work on the 20 or so shows that I have and doing other films that do not include Madea. However, chap, hallelujah indeed, he brought her back for a Madea Homecoming, chat, crossing over with other fare from across the pond, chat, across the Atlantic, bring over Mrs. Brown and her boys, or at least, her fucking niece or something like that. And it's like, we got another epic Tyler Perry tale. And listen, this movie, is it perfect? No. Does it have numerous technical issues, narrative issues, chat? Is it just a barely function as a film? Sure. However, I'll stand by this. Tyler Perry as Madea is great. She's just funny. I can't help it, Chad. She'll do something that'll just take me aback, to catch me off guard, and I'll end up laughing. Like, even how this movie opens, Chad, with, like, what's his name? Uncle Brown or whatever. I know there's a Mrs. Brown, there's an Uncle Brown. Uncle Brown, no relation to Mrs. Brown, Chad, who sets himself on fire with some awful After Effects, just CGI fire. just screaming. And Madea just looking out from her kitchen and just like, Jesus. Filling up her little teacup of water, walking outside, throwing it, throws it at Mr. Brown, does nothing, just evaporates in the air before he even gets to him. I'm like, that's cinema. That to me is cinema. That's what certain filmmakers like Steven Spielberg, David O. Russell, chat, Damien Chazelle, James Cameron. Those are the filmmakers that have failed to do what Tyler Perry did this year with a Madea Homecoming, chat, making me laugh, define my expectations. And that's why a Madea Homecoming is the first of my honorable mentions for the best movies of 2022. Moving on from a Madea Homecoming, chat, I got to go ahead and I have to admit, I have to eat a big helping of crow, a big slice of humble pie, because I had a lot of misgivings about this film's marketing, the trailers for it all, chat, but I have to admit, I really fell in love with Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, chat, which is directed by one of the members of the Lonely Island, Akiva Schaffer, starring John Mulaney and Andy Samberg. John Mulaney playing Dale and Andy Samberg playing Chip from Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, the actual TV series, the cartoon TV series. And this, to me, this movie, they said, like, we wanted to make something that is a spiritual successor, a spiritual sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'm like, give me a break. How are you going to do that? Who Framed Roger Rabbit is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my probably top 20 films. I doubt you'll do it. But they did it. I was blown away by how funny this was, how reverent they were of the original show. They told a pretty cool mystery, and they did these different interpretations of cartoon characters. They had crazy cameos that actually worked within the film itself that had, like, a narrative through line. There's a lot of cameos this year. I'm like, why is this person even in the movie? But, like, when you see, like, Ugly Sonic, which they kept that hidden, I had no idea, and that got such a big laugh. I was like, wow. And even though, like, the one thing that bothers me about the film, I would have to say, is the voice acting from, they're not necessarily bad, John Mulaney or Andy Samberg, but I wish they included the original, voice actors that provided the voices for these characters, voice actresses, I should say. And they briefly make a cameo, obviously, and they bring in the other rescue rangers, and they're not a part of the main plot. They come in at certain moments. But yeah, I was really taken aback by how funny this movie was. I watched it 3 times. I think at the time, I gave it like a matinee or a high matinee, and I'm like, I think maybe at this point, this is like a full price to me. I really, really enjoyed this film. I can safely say this is very much the spiritual successor, the spiritual sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I hope they do another one. I really want to see them continue to explore this world. It was great. It almost feels like I wouldn't mind if they reference parts of the original Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I think that'd be kind of cool. But hey, for right now, if this is the only one we get, I'm like, wow, you actually managed to do it. You managed to tell something that is as in a lot of cases just as endearing and special as something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So yeah, I love this movie, Chad. I love this movie. And moving on from Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, speaking of like kind of franchises getting a new lease on life, Chad, just a fresh coat of paint, and thankfully, because of a director who has a vision and wants to experiment with a franchise that is not often experimented with in the best of ways, and that is Prey, Chad. Dan Trachtenberg's Prey is also one of my favorite movies of 2022. I feel like this has re-energized the Predator franchise. Like, stop, crossover of aliens. Stop trying to change the lore of the Predators by, they're not really interested in hunting. They just want all the autism. They want all the autism on the planet Earth and to inject themselves with autism to be super autistic Predators. Like, that shit's not working. Okay? And that's not to say, listen, that the Predator franchise hasn't had additional good entries after the first one. Like, I think Predators is very good. The one with Adrian Brody and Topher Grace and everything. That was really cool. Setting on that alien world, all these other dangerous people dealing with these multiple predators. Very, very fun. And, I like Predator 2. It's got some issues, chap, but hey, change it up, change the location. I like that. Danny Glover's great. Hell, even Alien vs. Predator, which is, I wouldn't say it's a good movie, but it's a dumb, fun, bad movie. It's probably also the third best Alien film, honestly. But, you know, the Predator franchise has never, I think, reached the same heights as the original one. But Prey comes pretty goddamn close. I just love that they decided, like, okay, you know, Dan Trachtenberg, who also, he can come out, like, making short films. He did, like, the Portal Show film on YouTube. And obviously, he directed one of my favorite movies of the last decade, in the 2010s, 10 Cloverfield Lane with John Goodman and John Gallagher and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Love that movie. So good. But, you know, he took approach, like, let's simplify it. Let's make it, again, about two hunters, both back and forth being hunted. Like, who is the hunter and who is the hunted, chat, right? Who is the prey, if you will. And they said it, during the 1700s, right? And you're following this Native American woman played by Amber Midthunder who wants to be a hunter. And the thing is, I like that the film did this. Like, she struggles with doing the same things that the men does, because she is not as physically, she's just as smart as any of them are, but she's not physically as strong as them. So she has to do things differently. She has to approach things in a different way. And I like that they show that throughout the rest of the film, and where, you know, throughout the movie, she's outsmarting, like, all these things, but also at the same time, like, really struggling against this extraterrestrial hunter. I thought it was really, really good. I'm excited for what, you know, Disney will be doing with the Predator franchise going forward, how involved Dan Trachtenberg will be. But if you're a fan, I feel like, of the original Predator and Predators, you'll like this. To me, this is probably the second best Predator film in the franchise. And the Predator franchise, for the most part, is whether, you know, it's, you know, a lot. It's provided some really good to decent entries, with the exception of the Predator, which is just garbage trash. Prey is very good, chat. Very good. A great movie, in my opinion. Moving on from Prey, we go to a film which, I had very low expectations for based on the marketing, and that film is Smile. I thought the trailers and the teasers for this looked ridiculous. It reminded me of the Blumhouse Truth or Dare movie. Everyone has that ridiculous smile. I was like, give me a break. It looked so unintentionally funny. But the thing is, like, I don't know who that marketing team was, but they did a bad job. The movie itself, which is coming out like a first-time filmmaker, Parker Finn. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do in the future, chat. Also starring Sosie Bacon, the daughter of Kevin Bacon and Kara Sedgwick. This is a great thriller. It dealing with just the struggles of mental illness and not being able to express yourself and having people believe you, almost people being like, just get away from me. And instead of that, you know, in place of that mental illness, it's this creature, this entity that is hopping from one person to the other, haunting them for several days up to a week, driving them, you know, insane. Always have a smile on its face. I thought this was just really, really good. You know, it was a supernatural film that, yes, it's definitely borrowing from things we've seen in the past, like It Follows or The Ring. But I thought it did it very well. It was a nice modern version of that, and it was competently directed. Had some really good scares, some interesting creature design, chat, and great performances too. I'm like, I was very, but like, no one in the cast does like a bad job. No one comes across as, you know, overly obnoxious or just there to be meat, you know, for the slaughter. I was very impressed with this movie, chat. Smile, it did a great job. I'm very curious to see what Parker Finn will do in the future. If I have any criticisms of the movie, maybe one or two many jump scares that were just kind of unnecessary. It's like, you didn't need to do that. It was almost like, you got to have some jump scares. Outside that, I thought it was very good. I thought it was great. And then moving on from Smile, chat, the last of my honorable mentions, this is another movie that I was looking forward to, definitely, but it really surprised me. And that was Violent Night with David Harbour, chat. You know, if you remember a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, I'm trying to remember. It was a few years ago. We had that Mel Gibson Santa Claus movie called The Fat Man. And everyone's like, whoa, Mel Gibson as Santa Claus as an action film. It's got Walton Goggins going up against assassins. And okay, that sounds cool. But it really wasn't that movie. It wasn't what was being advertised. It was more of a dark comedic drama film, in where we kind of dealing with the minutiae and the bureaucracy of Santa Claus trying to deliver presents and to keep up the holiday spirit. It wasn't bad. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it well enough, but it just wasn't the movie that was clearly advertised in all the marketing. This movie, the marketing for this film, it is so truthful to the actual movie itself, Chad. This is Die Hard with David Harbour as Santa Claus, and he goes around kicking ass, Chad, dispatching various hench people, Chad, murdering them in graphic, gory fashion, and succeeding at the same time. Also having these like really wholesome moments too. There's this little girl in the film. I think her name is Leia Brady. I think this might be her first big role. The moment she's kind of like almost like a Kevin McAllister-esque character. You know, she just saw Home Alone and she still believes in Santa Claus. And that's kind of the thing. That's the heart of the film, is that relationship between David Harbour, Santa Claus. And David Harbour, Santa Claus, like he's lost the Christmas spirit. He is miserable. He's an alcoholic. He's just bitter about the state of the world at this point, and of the holidays and of Christmas. And he's like, he just has no motivation. He just does it because he's been doing it for 1,100 years, for 1,100 years. But this little girl kind of, you know, trying to save this piece of shit family. But this great little girl who's a part of this family, despite the horrible family, he's like, no, there's something, the Christmas spirit's in her, and I have to do what I need to do to save her and keep going with Christmas. And it was great, and the action was awesome. I really enjoyed this movie, Chad. I was surprised. David Harbour, he is one of the greatest. We've had some great on-screen Santa Clauses, Chad. David Harbour is among them. He is one of the greatest on-screen theatrical Santa Clauses we have ever got. And yeah, the kills. Oh my God, let me tell you, Chad, the kills. Incredible. So impressive. I want to go ahead and finally get to my top 10. My top 10 best movies of 2022. Just finished the honorable mentions, Chad. Just to reiterate for my honorable mentions, I have a Madea Homecoming, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Prey, Smile, and lastly, Violent Night. But now, Chad, I want to go ahead and get into my top 10. And this is a movie that kind of came out of nowhere for me, Chad, but I really liked the marketing for it. I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool, interesting. But I honestly, I didn't really pay much attention to it outside of that, you know. But then all of my critic friends started saying, like, no, this is one of the best movies of the year. It's one of the best thrillers, horror movies, comedies, incorporates different genres. And that film, Chad, my number 10 is The Menu. Which, you know, I've praised most recently. That was one of the most recent films I've seen in December, Chad. It's directed by Mark Mylod. He's probably best known for being one of the people behind the series Succession, Chad, which I've watched the first season of, and it's really, really good. The whole premise is you have this group of diners who come from all these different kind of like, you know, walks of life, but are all very wealthy. They all have their various secrets, Chad. They've been invited to this very exclusive restaurant on this very private island, and they're hosted by this, you know, this celebrity chef, Chad, who basically says, I'm intending to kill all of you, but I gotta make a point first. I gotta make a point about it, all right? If you kill them, they won't learn nothing, so I gotta teach them a lesson. And this is like an all-star cast of, you know, very notable actors, a lot of character actors, Chad. Obviously, you know, Ray Fiennes, or Ralph Fiennes, you know, as Mama called him Ralph, Chad, I'm gonna call him Ralph, but I'll call him Ray Fiennes for the sake of convenience. Anna Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, Hun Chow, who's having a fantastic year, Chad, both in this movie and also the way I think she's the best thing about that film. You get a lot of, Judith Light. John Leguizamo, Chad, was also in Violent Night. Just great. This, if you just want a really well-written thriller that's punctuated with some really dark comedy, Chat, this is a movie for you. I don't feel that this movie will be for everyone if you're just not a fan of dark comedies with, you know, thriller and horror sensibilities. But I really liked it. It felt very original. I liked its commentary on class and hypocrisy. Great movie, Chat. My number 10 of 2022. But now, moving on to my number 9, and this film had a lot weighing on it. You know, they had a number of issues going for it. It was actually not the movie that they originally planned on making, but I feel like they did a great job, and they told a really heartfelt, but at the same time, extremely entertaining story, and that is Ryan Coogler's Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Chat, where, you know, for everyone that knows, Chadwick Boseman famously played, you know, King T'Challa throughout the variety of MCU movies, starting with Captain America Civil War and then appearing in several other Avengers movies. And then obviously in Black Panther, you know, he passed away due to colon cancer. And this is way before they'd even started filming the movie. And Ryan Coogler and the variety of other filmmakers in the cast, they had to change the film. And, you know, I mean, I have to admit, they had a monumental task ahead of them, but the way in which they chose to not only honor Chadwick Boseman throughout the film, you feel him throughout this movie, but also just the character of T'Challa was handled extremely well. That first hour where you have all these characters, everyone from, you know, Shuri to M'Baku, to the Queen Mother, played by Angela Bassett, who gives an incredible performance. I love how this film is dealing with grief and what grief can drive people, the way in which it can drive people, and whether it be doing good things or bad things. I thought it was exceptional. The introduction of Tenoch Huerta as Namor, I thought that was great. I love that they changed Namor. They definitely made a number of changes, but I feel like for the best. They wanted to separate it from, you know, Warner Brothers DC's Aquaman. They decided to give it like a Mesoamerican aesthetic and setting, and I thought that was great. That was really cool. I thought Tenoch Huerta was one of the stands in this cast. Cannot wait to see that character throughout the future of the MCU. Is a fantastic antagonist, especially to Shuri's character. Letitia Wright. It's funny, you know, so many people. Listen. I know this was a big controversy. A lot of people, or some not. I mean, you know, a certain section of the film community and fans, they wanted them to recast, you know, Chadwick Boseman. They wanted someone else to play T'Challa in the movie, but Ryan Coogler and the filmmakers decided not to go in that direction. They decided to let that character pass on the mantle. And I thought they handled it very well. And Letitia Wright, you know, she earns it. Shuri earns the Black Panther mantle by the end of the film. The thing about her whole performance is, you know, she's constantly dealing with grief. She's angry. She's bitter. She's had this mountain of responsibility thrust upon her shoulders, which she wasn't originally supposed to get it, much probably like Letitia Wright, you know, with in real life. And even when she gets the Black Panther suit and the power, she's still not Black Panther because she's still so controlled by her emotions and anger and vengeance due to a certain things that happen in the film. But at the very end of the movie, when she's confronting Namor and they have that one moment and she chooses not to do something and instead does this other thing, which I don't want to say too much about the movie. People haven't seen it, of course, because you should see it. When that moment happens at the end, it's like, there it is. She's Black Panther, and she did such a great job. And so I'm very excited with seeing her being Black Panther in the future and carrying on this mantle. I thought it was a great movie. If I have any complaints about the film, I feel like maybe the Riri Williams character, again, not bad, and Martin Freeman's character of Everett Ross, not necessary, you know, to the overall film. It is a long movie, but still, this movie does so much right. I like it better than the first Black Panther, honestly. I mean, one, because it is weighty, you feel that the emotion throughout, but also the action. The action and the CGI is much better in this movie than the original Black Panther. My biggest issue with Black Panther, which I feel like is a great movie, it's full price, but the thing that makes this movie, at least in my opinion, like a high full price, I mean, of that, where I just think it's better, is like they really, Ryan Coogler, who I think has always struggled with choreography and action and CGI, it's handled much better here. And I just love the whole design of Tula Khan, which is, you know, Namor's kingdom and people. I thought that was great. It felt very inspired. It felt so different. I liked that. It really stood out in the movie to me. So yeah, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, chat, is my number 9 film, my favorite, and I think the best movie, one of the best movies of 2022. And as I said before, chat, at the top, I feel like 2022 was an exceptional year for horror films. I mean, genre films in general, but definitely for horror, chat. I think everyone has their favorite horror movie this year, and I have several, but one of my favorite horror movies this year is Ty West's Pearl, chat, which is the prequel sequel to X, which also came out the same year, and it stars Mia Goth as this character named Pearl, who's living in the I think it's the late 19 teens, like 1918, is just at the end of World War I, and her husband is away at war, and she's living with her emotionally abusive mother and her father, who is, I think, suffered a stroke or is suffering from this disease. And, you know, she has this fervent, you know, aspirations to be this this film star, this movie star, but she can't help committing these horrible acts of grisly, gory violence against numerous people in her Texas hometown. And Mia Goth gives one of the best performances, both here in X, but especially in Pearl, chat. Like, I know everyone's saying so-and-so should be nominated, but I hope that she gets some award attention for this role. She does such a great job. The Pearl character, both here and also in X, is kind of like one of those. I think it's gonna be one of those special, iconic, kind of slashers in the slasher subgenre. People are gonna go like, yeah, but Pearl, she's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, I really like what they did with her. Everyone does a great job. I mean, it's very much her movie. You know, not to say that that no one's bad in the film, but the focus is mostly on her performance. But she does a great, and I love the technique. I mean, I'm sure there's other films that are like this, other horror movies, but I can't think of too many horror films that look like a Disney film, like that 1950s era Technicolor movies. It just has that aesthetic to it, and I thought, oh, that was really cool, and it really stood out. But yeah. So much about this movie works. If you like slasher films, if you like thrillers, if you like grisly gore horror movies, if you just like fine acting, you should check out Pearl, chat. A really good horror film. And again, continuing off horror movies, chat, I also got to bring up, well, the original film, and I guess what's going to be called the X trilogy, and that is X, chat. Again, also directed by Ty West, whereas Pearl was more of this homage to, Technicolor Disney films with a twist. This is very much an homage to like Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're following this, amateur film crew in I think the late 1970s, like 1978, 79 or something like that. And they want to go make a porno on this Texas property. And they go to this farmstead, and the farmer's like, all right, you just be careful of my wife. She's a little weird. And, they start, doing their thing. But then all of a sudden, chat, they encounter the farmer's wife, and she starts doing weird shit to everybody. She's wanting to either fuck or kill you. Which one do you want to do, chat? Do you want to fuck or do you want to die? That's the choice. It's graphic. It's grisly. It's hard to watch, but it also has really good performance. Again, Mia Goth in the movie, who is playing, two different roles. Brittany Snow, Jenna Ortega, who has had such an amazing year. I mean, just in horror, chat in general, but just as an actress. A number of other great performances in the film. Again, if you're just a fan of 70s slasher films, watch this one. It has all the sensibilities of those movies, and along with that, just has a really tight story and some fine performances. Just a great film. I was really debating which one do I like more, X or Pearl. They're so close to each other. I think the only reason why I think X edges out Pearl a little bit is because Pearl is just so much kind of focused just on Mia Goth's performance. And again, not to say that anyone else in that movie doesn't do a good job. It's just that the other cast members in X, they get more to do. They have interesting dynamics of each other. They have conversation. Where Pearl, she's in almost every single scene. I don't think there's a shot in the movie when she's not on scene. But still, both are great movies. Yeah, both are great movies. And who knows? I might even change my mind. I might say Pearl's better than X by in a couple weeks, couple months. But still a great film. And then, chat, again, 2022 is one of the best years for horror in quite some time. And I have to say, my favorite horror movie of 2022 is Barbarian. And this one took me back. At how good it was. It's directed by Zach Kreger, whose work I was pretty much unfamiliar with. I didn't really watch many of his comedies. I think he's from the comedic troupe, The Whitest Kids You Know. But I really didn't know. And based on the marketing, I was like, I'm not sure what this movie's about. I just know it has a very small cast, seemingly a very small cast. And you're primarily focused on three different characters, each one played by Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long. And what's so cool about this movie, and I know there's been another film that's kind of analyzed the whole idea of the Airbnb and the struggles and the difficulties and the fears people have with that. But how the movie plays out, you follow this woman who goes to this rental house. She's reserved it, but it's also been reserved by this other man played by Bill Skarsgård. And it's like a really awkward situation, and they don't really know it's like, well, what are we gonna do? But you know, like each third of the movie is something different. Like the first third is this awkwardness, kind of like we don't really know what's happening. Who is Bill Skarsgård's character? Who's Georgina Campbell's character? It's like, okay, little awkward, but also a little, you know, weird. And then, you know, but they bond, they do their thing, and they kind of go their separate ways in the house. And then all of a sudden, later that night, Georgina Campbell, she's taking the guest room. Her door opens, and she just hears this, ooh, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And we don't know what it was. Was it Bill Skarsgård? Was it somebody else? Was it Justin Long? Did he come into the house? We don't know. And then things happen. Things are discovered underneath the house. We then cut to Justin Long, which is a completely different story. And then the third film plays out like this crazy, over-the-top, gory horror thriller. It's so good, and how it just constantly builds and it just layers in this mystery, and you're like, oh, like what's actually happening. I love this film. If I have any criticisms, there's like one shot at the end. There's a siege, like so much of this film just uses like practical effects and just, the sets. I mean, the whole. I want to say like what this one set is, but it's like, oh god, it's like my greatest fear. It's Leviathan size. I'm just like, oh god, I hate it. It's like a labyrinth. But there's only like really one shot in the movie, and I'm like, I didn't like that CGI. Other than that, it's great. It's perfect. And Justin Long gives, you know, I don't think he's gonna get any award attention. I think he should. He plays a certain type of character. And he plays I'll say he's an asshole, and he plays an asshole so well, but like later in the movie, you change your opinion on him, and you're going back and forth, and he just has some of like the funniest moments in the film. He is so funny. I thought he was great. And yeah, the Barbarian, chat, one of my favorite movies of 2020. I think this is the best horror film of the year. And then finally, chat, we're entering my top 5, and my number 5, my 5th favorite film of the year, what I consider to be the best movies of 2022, and that movie is The Batman. You know, let me just start off by saying, chat, it's been quite some time since we had a good live-action Batman movie. I mean, not to say we haven't had good Batman films. I mean, you know, obviously the direct-to-VOD releases, like some of the animated movies, I'm sure I've enjoyed, and the Lego Batman movie I thought was great. But man, it's been a rough fucking decade, chat. It's been a really rough decade. Like, to me, the last truly good, I mean, definitely truly great, amazing Batman film was The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, and obviously Batman Begins before that. But man, after that, Dark Knight Rises and Batman v Superman and all Justice, oh god, all that, both Justice Leagues is like, oh, it's been rough. But Matt Reeves, Chad, who I feel like is one of the best filmmakers working today, one of the best blockbusters, one of the best genre filmmakers working today. He has not made a bad movie, in my opinion. Making Cloverfield, making Let Me In, which I think is underrated. I don't think that movie deserved the hate it got. I think Let Me In and Let the Right One In are both great. I mean, you can go either or. I think they're good. Obviously, his 2 Planet of the Apes movies, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which is my favorite, and War of the Planet of the Apes is also very good. But following up all that stuff with the Batman, and he presents, definitely one of the best on-screen Batman of all time, played by Robert Pattinson. This is a psychologically disturbed version of the character. This is someone who has not formulated the Bruce Wayne personality at all. He's been Batman for a year at this point. We don't see the origin. We don't see. In slow motion, Zack Snyder, you listen to me? We don't see slow motion, gun being pulled out, pearls falling everywhere. We don't see little Bruce Wayne rising in the sky. No. It's like, no. All right, he's been Batman for years. This is year 2. He's crazy. He's obsessed. He's trying to hunt down this serial killer, the Riddler. And then this movie is it's got David Fincher's DNA all over it. Yet heavily inspired by films like Seven. And it was great. It's a detective story. And Robert Pattinson plays just this psychotic, emotionally warped version of Batman who is just obsessed of trying to catch this killer, getting involved, exploring the criminal elements of Gotham City. John Turturro, who's I think underrated performance as Carmine Falcone, great. Colin Farrell, unrecognizable as the Penguin, so good. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon. So many great roles in this movie. And just a wonderful just story, chat. And even though, as dark as this movie gets, and it gets really, really dark, and it gets really, really disturbing. And Paul Dano, of course, as the Riddler, who I wanted more of him, but with the screen time they give him, he's great. But despite all this darkness and the material and the subject matter they're dealing with, it delivers some of the best on-screen Batman moments ever in film. Like the end of this movie, there's 2 scenes, chat, that I point to. The scene where he's like, it's when the stadium floods. It's when the stadium floods. And he's after he just beats the shit of all of the incels, the Riddler incels. I mean, just fucks them up. And he realizes, like, I can't be vengeance. Because he always says, I'm vengeance. But you see, he can't be that anymore. And he sees all these people almost drowning and suffering. He's like, ah! And he sees them. The giant fucking screen about to fall, and it's gonna electrocute the people. He jumps out there, grabs it, he cuts it, he electrocutes himself, falls in the water, he rises up, gets the flare. It's that red color, like red is like, one of the big colors used heavily in this movie. And he approaches the stage, which is falling. The mayor's like, the new mayor, she just got shot in the tummy, and everyone's fucking terrified of him, because I would be terrified too. And this little boy who saw him earlier in the film, he's the one to take his hand. Like, Batman reaches out his hand, everyone like recoils except that little boy. He takes his hand, and then everyone follows him. He's leading all the people. It's like, oh, that shot. The cinematography in this movie is so good. And then we cut outside of the stadium, and we see it where he's, we have this internal monologue and talk about the city. The city's flooded. It's fucked. And he's carrying this woman, and he's putting on this stretcher, this gurney. He's going to be lifting off. He's got to evacuate all the people. But when he puts her down, she holds on to his arm because she's scared, and she still wants him there. Wants to be held by him, and he comforts her. I was like, there it is. And much in the same way that Letitia Wright, when she didn't become Black Panther at the end of the movie, I was like, there he is. Now he's Batman. I was like, yes, excellent. He did such. Robert Pattinson. I'm proudly will say, I was like, perfect casting as Batman. I can't wait to see him. All these haters out there who had not seen his recent work in things like Good Time or The Lighthouse or any other smaller projects that he's been doing, all his indie films. He has been cutting his teeth on some excellent stuff. And I was like, but Twilight was like, shut the fuck up, all right? Twilight was, how many years ago now? 15 years ago? Let it fucking go. All right. He's more than that. He's moved on from that. He's doing great work, and he's a fantastic Batman. He's a great actor, and I cannot wait to see more of this Batman, more of Matt Reeves' version. I hope he still get these films, Chad. I mean, if this is the last one, based on what things are going on at Warner Brothers and DC, hey, man, you gave me a Detective Batman, so thank you for that. Thank you. The Batman is my number 5. I think the 5th best movie of 2022. One of my favorites, Chad. Moving on from the Batman. My number 4, chat, my 4th favorite film, the 4th best movie of 2022, and that is The Northman. I was just talking about The Lighthouse, chat, directed by Robert Eggers. This is his latest cinematic outing, chat, and this film focuses on this Viking, or this Norseman, this Viking prince named Amleth, who he undergoes this tragedy as a young man, where his family is betrayed, his father is murdered, and he sets out on this quest to avenge his father, save his mother, and murder his treacherous uncle. The movie makes, this is, to me, it's like one of those great Barbarian-esque movies. It kind of, even though I think that this to me is like a more mature version of a film that I already love, like something like Conan the Barbarian, because it incorporates mythological elements. You don't know if they're actually there or not, or it's just like played up in these people's minds because of their belief systems. But everyone from Alexander Skarsgård to Nicole Kidman to Claes Bane, who gives, I think, a super underrated performance this year as the murderous, treacherous uncle. Anna Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke, who's briefly in it. Willem Dafoe, who plays this crazy fucking Norse wizard, who's like doing all these prophecies and just, just jerking off. This is great. I love this. It was a beautiful looking movie. It's very violent. It doesn't pull any punches. Like, hey, if you don't like violence against kids, like, too bad. A lot of them are gonna get stabbed and disemboweled. That's how it was, chat, back in the 800s. In the 800s. Yeah, such a great, just a raw film, and kind of returns to those like sword and sandals movies, but just makes it feel so gritty. And just, I mean, I can literally just feel like the cold coming out. And I was like, God, this fucking time period sucks. I mean, I think, yeah, if you were a Norseman, if you were a Viking, it's like, yeah, it's probably better, you know. But if you were not any of those things, you were fucked. They really explore like how the Vikings, how the Norsemen like subjugated people and enslaved them, and it was not good, shit. If you're a woman, holy shit, you better. I mean, listen, it's not good no matter what. But you want to at least, hopefully, you're in a royal family or something. You'll be trading around like a piece of fucking furniture, chat, like a blanket or something. But at least it'll be better than some of these other people who are, I mean, you could be either raped any other day, or you can get the sword just right through your gut. Yeah, great movie. Great movie. Just, it kind of also reminded me, because at the same time, I think was I playing Elden Ring at the time? It has these moments that feel like Dark Souls. Like there's a straight up Dark Souls boss battle at one point in the film. And I was like, oh! It's almost like this guy rises up off this chair. He's like 9 feet tall, and he should have had like a health bar or something. I was like, oh my God. It was like really, really cool. It was a cool moment in the film. And the end, oh my God. Listen. You remember Revenge of the Sith, chat? Like that lightsaber battle in the volcano and shit on the lava planet between Anakin and Obi-Wan? That sucks compared to what they do at the end of this film. We have a battle between these two guys in a volcano, chat, and they are cutting and stabbing each other. It is bloody and gory. They're making sure not to step in hot molten magma and hot molten lava, chat. Really great, really great. It's a bit of a slow burn. Like, you get these cool epic scenes, and they're awesome. All the choreography, all the action. It's nasty. It's dirty. It's filled with feces and urine. Oh, it's great. But, you know, it's a bit of a slow burn when you realize, like, oh shit, this guy's like doing some subterfuge. He's doing sabotage. You know, that's what he's doing, trying to get revenge as well. I'm like, oh, this was interesting. This was interesting. I really like this movie. It was great. Wonderful film. I think The Lighthouse is still, I mean, I don't know. Robert Eggers, you know, the Vitch. I after a second viewing, I liked that movie a lot more. When I first I was like, oh, it's good, but I'd come to really appreciate that film. And The Lighthouse, I loved. You know, that came out the year 2019, one of the greatest years of films ever in my lifetime. But then he's knocked out of the park, Chad. He's 3 for 3 in my book. I really recommend The Northman. Great performances, Chad. And again, Anna Taylor-Joy, what a great year for her. Both, and she's in 2 of my favorite movies. This one, where she plays this, I think she's Russian. I think she's this Russian woman who was abducted into Claes Bane's kind of little kingdom. And then she later becomes like the paramour to Alexander Skarsgård's Amleth. She's really good in here, and also in The Menu, chat. Great year for her. Really good year for her. Anya Taylor-Joy does a great job. And then, chat, hey, we're getting the top 3 now. My third best movie of 2022, and that is Pixar's Turning Red. I know there's been a lot of Disney movies that have come out this year, chat. Pixar movies even. Some of them have been disappointments, big disappointments. Maybe I'll talk about them on another list. But 2022's Turning Red, this really took me by surprise. Even the trailers, I was like, oh, okay, this looks fine. This looks okay. I mean, we'll see. I was unsure, but this movie about it's about a 13-year-old Chinese Canadian girl in 2002 who is dealing with growing up, who is going through puberty, Chad, who is menstruating, and like on paper, I'm like, if I was like a Disney executive and Pixar came to me and said, hey, we want to do an animated film, and it's about this girl growing up. And she's going through all these changes, and we want to literally reference menstruating. I've been like, are you out of your mind? What are you talking about? What? But the way in which Pixar, you know, most of the time, they are such great storytellers and filmmakers. You should just trust them, I think, most of the time, Chad, because they manage to do it in such a great way that is both mature and easily accessible for both children's and adults. And the other thing, too, is I think this is really good. I think there's a lot of stigma and uncomfortableness tied to girls menstruating. It just is. People are like, I don't want to talk about it. And when it happens to young girls who are going through that, they feel, because of how society views it, they feel like monsters. They feel icky. They feel gross. And I was like, oh, and because she's going through this change in her family, as women grow up, they become these giant red pandas. And that's what happens when they get emotional, when they get sad, when they get angry, when they're going through these, bodily changes, these bodily functions. And I was like, wow, that was really inspired. But it's so wholesome. It has so many great moments. You have a fantastic supporting cast, Chad. That banner, like the film also indulges. It's crazy to think. Yeah, 2002 is retro now. It is, Chad. It is retro. But they have these callbacks to these like boy bands. Like they have this whole boy band. What was it called, Chad? It was something with 4 in it, but it was basically like a callback to Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. And they have this band in there, and they had this song. Four Town is Four Town. I love Four Town. I was a fan. I was a townie. I was a Four Townie. I loved it. I was like, this is really good. I loved it. And her friends, all the friends, man, they have so many like little cutaway gags or stuff in the background, like of her 3 other friends that were brilliant. They all have like these very different personalities. Each of them was great, but Abby, she's just this little bundle of energy, like look at what she's doing in the background. She always do something very funny, or like when she's like grabs a hold of I believe the character's name is May Lynn, but she grabs hold of her, she's her pinafore, it's like so fluffy, and like her eyes are just unblinking. That was great. Also, this year has just been kind of about like evil grandparents and grandmas and moms. You had the mom in here, ooh, rough. But then you meet her grandmother, you meet her mother, which is even worse. I was like, oh wow. And then, chat, of course, you also have James Hahn. Always good. He's a fucking national treasure, Chad. James Hahn is in this movie, provides a voice, very much, paying homage to his character of David Lopan in Big Trouble. I was already, you guys, there's some Pixar filmmakers, they're fans of Big Trouble in Little China. I see what you did there. I see what you did, the Pixar. And so that really got me. Yeah, this is a great movie, Chad, but I feel like at the end of the day, the most important lesson it teaches is just because, you have these girls and they're growing up and they're menstruating, they're doing things that's what their bodies do. It's like they shouldn't be ostracized or stigmatized or made to feel gross or monstrous. It's just like, this is what happens when you grow up and you change. And I like that the film did that. I know it's like people are like, oh, I don't want my kids to know. It's like, well, they're going to fucking go through it. It's what's going to happen. You as an adult, you should be able to address this, all right? Your parents, come on. So I really like that. I really like the movie. It's an incredibly positive message, chat. This deserved a theatrical release. It should have been released in theaters, chat. I know, Pixar and Disney is having a rough year with some of their animated theatrical releases, chat. No doubt about it. But this one deserved it. I'm glad it's getting a lot of attention. It got a lot of attention on Disney Plus, and I think it's what a lot of people consider to be like one of the best, if not the best, animated film of the year. I certainly think that. And moving on from Turning Red, chat, we have my second favorite, what I consider to be the second best movie of 2022, and that is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, directed by the Daniels, chat, and with an all-star cast of people, everyone from Michelle Yeoh to James Hahn to Jenny Slate to Jamie Lee Curtis, who's unrecognizable, and the triumphant return of Ke-Huy Quan, which people probably best know him for playing the characters of Short Round and Data in Indiana Jones Temple of Doom and The Goonies, respectively. This is a genre-bending comedic fantasy tale, chat, where you have this woman, Michelle Yeoh, who is going through her life, and it's in complete disarray. She's bitter. Her marriage is struggling. She's struggling with her daughter. She's not accepting of her daughter because she is gay and because she has a girlfriend. She's dealing with her father who disapproves. She's dealing with a failing laundromat, and, she's being audited by the IRS. It's like, it couldn't be worse. But then she finds herself caught in this multi-verse spanning war. And she has to take on different aspects of her personality for different universes and interact with different members of her family from different universes. In order to do so, she has to do ridiculous things. Over the top. Everything ranging on, you have to give yourself a paper cut in between each part of your hand to, you got to stick something up your butt so you can get kung fu powers. It sounds ridiculous. And in a lot of cases, it is. The thing is, though, it embraces that. It wears it on its sleeves. And it creates some just... it really shows you how to do multiverse stuff. Like, we also had another multiverse movie, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which I actually really enjoyed. I thought it was great. But this one, it really shows how far you can push that and how weird and experimental you can get with it. But at the same time, googly eyes, and obviously you have googly eyes, but at the same time, tell this heart-wrenching, heartfelt story of a wife, daughter, mother learning to be better and correcting the mistake that she's made in her past, but living with them at the same time and just deciding that she needs to be better for the future. It is a great movie, Chad. It's this is going to be one at the end of the decade people are going to point back to and go like, this was very, very special. This did so many things right. It perfectly incorporates so many genres. I know there's a lot of filmmakers, out there nowadays who are extraordinarily dismissive of genre filmmaking, of horror, of fantasy, of superheroes, of, anything. Science fiction. This movie incorporates all of those things and shows you, look how good this can be. And I really appreciate that. Martial arts as well. And also, this actress, Stephanie Hugh, I think it's her name, Stephanie Hugh, who plays the daughter in the movie. She gives such a great performance, Chad. There's something, I don't even say there's a twist with her character. It's like, oh, and she handles it so well. So well, Chad. A lot of people deserve award attention to this movie. I think Michelle Yeoh deserves to be nominated for whatever you want to put. I think Ke Huy Quan's going to get nominated. I think Stephanie Hugh should get nominated. The cast should be celebrated, Chad. They did such a great job. The Daniels definitely deserve award attention as well. Such a great movie. But, Chad, it is not my number one. It is not my favorite film of 2022. I don't think it's the best movie of 2022. What I think is the best movie of 2022, and at the time, even before I saw this film, I would have never thought in a million years that not only would you like this movie, not only would you think this movie is great, not only would you inevitably love the film, but you would also say it is the best movie of the year and one of the greatest, I think, sequels of all time. And that film, Chad, my number one movie, the best movie of 2022, is Top Gun Maverick. As you guys know, I was not a fan of the original Top Gun. I think it's fine. It's passable. It's dated. It's unintentionally funny and homoerotic a lot of the time, but it was very popular when it originally came out in the 80s, 86, 87, around that time. And so when they announced that Tom Cruise is going to return to the Maverick character, Chad, he's going to, have Joseph Kosinski, who is definitely a competent director, has worked with Tom Cruise before, on a number of films. I was like, I'm good. I don't need this. But after watching this movie, Chad, I was like, wow, this film shows you the power of cinema, of blockbuster filmmaking with heart. And the movie, what it does so well is that it takes the elements of the original film, gets rid of the stuff that does not work, is reverent of the elements that do, incorporates that in here, but provides a better story, provides better characters, and gives you some of the best action that I've seen on screen. The choreography, the things they do with these jets here are breathtaking. Listen, It's definitely inspired by Star Wars. Star Wars inspired a lot of other notable action scenes and sci-fi films, no doubt. Things have inspired Star Wars, but Top Gun Maverick borrows from so many different genres, but it excels with them. But at the end of the day, what the movie does, what the movie has, the reason why it's so successful is because you can have these amazing action scenes and things, that's fine, but it has this heart. We see Maverick where he has to confront his past. Like, how at the end of the film's like, oh yeah, he's like, I want to run Top Gun school. Well, guess what? After a month, he got fucking kicked out, and he's barely hanging on, to his position in the Air Force. And now he has to go back to Top Gun. Now he has to train these people, but he also has to confront, this issue that he has with the son, with Goose's son. Goose, who was his partner, who died in the original Top Gun, and he's played by Miles Teller, and he has to confront mistakes that he's made and trying to rectify them, but also at the same time trying to rekindle this relationship that he has with this kid, who might as well be his son. It just has so much heart and wholesomeness, and it has the characters, like, even if they don't have a lot of depth. The thing is, like, you don't always need to have a profound amount of depth for every single character in your movie, but if you just give them like a lot of personality, when they stand out, and I was like, yeah, and that's what this movie does. Like the last film, all those characters, they all look the same. First of all, everyone looks the same. Everyone looks blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Aryan-looking motherfucker. Everyone's hot and sweaty. I was like, I don't know. Like here, it's like no, they give everyone an individual personality. They give everyone a moment. And they get to show off. I was like, that's really nice. These nice little slices. I was like, yeah, this is good. And so when something bad happens to them, when someone is at risk, you're like, oh, like you get so anxious. You get so worried. And there is some scenes where you're like, holy shit. How are they going to get out of this one? I was like, wow. I mean, I was nervous. I was nervous watching this movie. And then again, more heartfelt moments. Like the one thing that I think a lot of people were worried about was, all right, they're bringing back Val Kilmer as Iceman, who was one of the leads, one of the co-leads in the original Top Gun. Obviously, Val Kilmer, I believe he had throat cancer. He couldn't talk anymore. He lost his voice, and I think a lot of people were concerned. I was concerned. Like, I hope you're just not bringing him on there. You're like, there he is to show him off. Like, I hope they don't do like what they. I forget. Like, there's this one, like for example, Independence Day Resurgence. They brought back one of the actors from the original movie. And they're like, there he is. And that actor at the time when he made the cameo in the film, he was suffering from dementia. And it's just like, this is exploitive and disgusting. In this movie, the scene they have in this film is handled and just incredibly well. It's immaculate. And like and it's so crazy about this because I didn't care about that relationship in the first movie. I was like, I don't think, they want to fuck each other, right? But what comes across in that scene and Tom Cruise's performance, which he gives a great performance in that movie. He does. This is one of his best performances of his entire career. It's almost like he's commenting on his career in the movie itself. But his conversation with Val Kilmer, with Iceman, the film, is great. And the way in which Val Kilmer's able, he types in a keyboard and he's able to communicate that way with Maverick, with Tom Cruise. And it was immaculate how they handled it. And there's some other scenes happening. I think I cried like 3 times in this movie, chap. Like I'd be shocked if you don't get water-eyed at some point. For me, I cried 3 times. I was so impressed with everything. And the song, Chad, oh my God. The song Hold My Hand by Lady Gaga, when they play at the end of the movie, I was like, oh God damn it. I started like the audience, I saw this from the audience, and people were sniffling and crying multiple, and then when that song came on at the end of the movie, people were going, oh God. It was great where they're showing off all the actors' names, like they'd shown the image of the actor, and like in the scene they had their name on it. People were going, yeah! People were fucking applauding. Like, there's only a couple. I usually don't applaud at the end of movies. There are rare exceptions. I think the last time before this one that I applauded a movie was Avengers Endgame, because that was like that was an incredible experience. Like, wow, just so emotional, right? It really shows you the impact genre filmmaking has, and I'm like but this is the last time. It's the only other time after Avengers Endgame where I applaud. I was like, yeah, Holy shit. And I saw the movie 3 times in the theater. It is great. This is a sequel that I feel like is going to be as revered as some of the best sequels of all time. Movies like Aliens, movies like Terminator 2. It is that good. People are going to point to go and say, this movie inspired me to be a filmmaker. And that's really special. And that's why I think Top Gun Maverick, surprising even myself, Jay, a year ago I would have said, who are you fooling? Absolutely not. But yeah, Top Gun Maverick to me, Chad, is the best movie of 2022. But that's my list. That's my list and my honorable mentions, chat, for the best films of 2022. I know we have all different tastes, of course, but I'm very curious to hear what are some of your favorite movies of 2022, your honorable mentions, and your own top 10. Let me know.